in session to reference. So John, I'm going to hand it over to you, and if you don't mind making your screen full size. I know when I've recorded in the past, we've had a smaller screen.
Well, I don't know how to do it.
No, not on your side. This would be on our side.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I know John likes to present slides. So since you guys are all in the same room, we'll pause for questions at certain points. So if you do have questions, we'll have a couple of sessions or a couple of stopping points during the session to field those questions. All right, John, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you. Looks good.
Okay, so I am John Zabilski, Customer Success Specialist for SciFinder-n, our new platform. Today we're going to actually focus predominantly on reaction searching, but along the way I'll touch base on some of the other types of searching in SciFinder-n. So as Lauren mentioned, we've added some features, enhancements for reaction searching, but probably the most exciting one is retrosynthesis, and more recently a predictive element, so you can actually run a retrosynthesis on a novel or unknown compound. So we'll look at a couple examples of that. So covering the major enhancements related to reaction searching, one of the things we've done is group together the reactions into schemes. So the same starting materials going to the product that's desired. The idea behind that, of course, is it's doing very similar transformations. You can kind of scan across those as quick as possible and find something new and interesting that you're interested in. The planner itself actually has two parts to it. It has an experimental element, and that's going to look for known reactions, those that appear in our reaction database. And as I mentioned, there's also this predictive element that we've added most recently. The other piece you get in SciFinder-n is unlimited access to the detailed templated MethodsNow synthesis. We went back to the original journal articles and we re-indexed those so you have a nice, thorough, step-by-step synthetic method that you can pull out of SciFinder and view. So it's a nice option to our previous experimental procedures where we just extracted them from the references where we were about to do that. Another new enhancement in SciFinder-n for reaction searching is the ability to search using stereochemistry. So in our previous platform, we were not allowed to put in any stereo bounds, but if you're looking for a particular isomer, now you can actually run a reaction search and include that particular isomer of interest. And we also added some filters to look for reactions where you can purchase all the starting materials. Those would all be commercially available. Our reaction type, which we'll talk about, and then the filters you're probably used to, such as refining by the yield or the role of the participants in the reaction. So we'll look at examples of all of that. So again, because we're looking for a focus on reaction information, we'll go through examples of these approaches. One is probably the simplest way and quickest and easiest way to get into reaction searching is to use the reaction tab. So I can type in a chemical name, it could be a systematic name, or it could be a trade name, a brand name, or even sometimes a laboratory code, anything that was associated with a particular substance in our CAS registry database. Or if you happen to have one, you can type in the CAS registry number. Of course, if you don't, you can search the name to find it. So, you know, one way or another, you're going to get to it. Another approach would be building an actual structure. So you can build a complete reaction structure. Most often I start with a product, I build the product, and then maybe I enhance that by adding some particular starting materials of interest. You can add those in as well. You can also put in reagents, and again, the various filters you can also filter down. We won't really touch on this, but you can do a little more precision steps as well, where you can map an atom from the starting material to the product, or even indicate where the reaction occurs by marking the bond site. So all those capabilities are available in a complete reaction structure. Of course, you can always get reactions from a reference set or a substance answer set. So you can run a structure search and then just go get reactions from that structure search, or if you have a reference set, you can get reactions from that. So that's pretty easy. Just click on the link and it takes you to those reactions. And finally, we'll talk about the retrosynthesis plan. So again, we'll look at all these examples here shortly in our demonstration for today. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at SciFinder-n. This is the starting platform here. The home page includes the options we're used to from the classic platform, such as substance searching, reaction searching, or reference searching. There's nice convenient tabs for looking at those. We've added a couple new ones. All will take a look across all databases, and we'll find information maybe in the reference database, in the substance database, the reaction database, and supplier information if you put in the substance name. So it's a way to kind of get a sampler across all the databases. Another one we put on the front here is for supplier information. So if you're just trying to find a supplier of a particular compound, very quickly I can go look it up. So I'm just going to type in a substance name here. And you also can see there's auto-suggest. So as I start to type, it shows me things that might be of interest. And of course, I can continue to type if I want. It's also very handy for me because I tend to type very poorly, and so it's going to catch some of my typos as I try to type in the name. So I'm looking for this particular substance. And I can go search for that based on supplier availability. And here it shows me the suppliers. So this is pretty similar to what you had in the classic platform. We do have filters here to focus us down based on purity, quantities, including you can refine this down to those that have bulk quantities. So you want to order a larger shipment of that, you can do so. The ordering within a number of weeks, whether they maintain it in stock, those that have a particular link available to the supplier. And of course, you can also focus down by country. These are nice with the filters now. You just select something of interest, refines that set, and you're ready to go. So at any point, you can go to a supplier. You can go to came in here. There's in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And here you can get additional information, including such as the safety data sheet, some property information, and of course, information about how to order that particular substance. So a nice feature to have. And then the suppliers can also be downloaded, if you like, either as a PDF or a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, or you can share these with a colleague, maybe someone who does the ordering the supplies for you. You can send this to them by email as well. Okay? So nice new addition to SciFinder-n is the ability to get right to that supplier information. Okay. All right, so we're going to take a look at looking for reaction information, and I think the easiest way, as I mentioned earlier, is start with the reaction tab. What's nice about this is very conveniently I can type in a substance name or a CAS registry number. I can even type in something like a patent number, and it will find all the reactions in that patent if I want. So I'm just going to put in a common diabetes medicine from Eli Lilly called Jardiance. Probably seen a million commercials about this. If you watch a lot of TV. But here we go. We can take a look at searching for Jardiance. Again, you notice that the auto-suggest came up, and I can select from that list if I like. This goes right into reaction searching. So this particular approach, it would be any available role for that substance. In most cases, you can see here, it's a product. In some cases, it's a reactant. Depending on what the substance is that you start with, it could show up as a reagent or even a solvent or catalyst, depending what it is. So you'll look across all the substance roles in some cases. Now, in all cases, the substance of interest is going to be the product. You can see here, this product has some stereo bonds. So, you can show you the example immediately that you can search by stereo now. So that might be of interest to you. Obviously, one stereoisomer might have the desired properties, whereas the other may not, or even be toxic in some cases. So it's useful to be able to filter down to that. We also have the filters on the left-hand side. I kind of think of the filters as two functions. One is an immediate and very transparent analysis, so we could see the analysis, but I could also, of course, select some of these for refinement. So it kind of combines those two functions from the SciFinder Classic platform into one. So I think it's a much superior way of doing this. Very transparent. As I apply the filters, I can see exactly what I've applied. I scroll back up and see that. So, of course, I could filter down by a particular yield of interest, filter down based on the number of steps. We've also had this in SciFinder Classic, but here it's a nice filter. So if you're looking for particular groups you don't want to be part of the reaction, so a functional group that just goes along for the ride more or less, you can select that option if you like. Now here I can click on a structure and you can see I can blow that up. So I kind of like this feature because some of these structures, if they're larger, are kind of hard to see. So you can kind of blow it up by just a left click. And it also shows me substance information around this substance. So reaction information, synthetic information, references that are available, and also a way to get into the retrosynthesis plan. Okay. We'll come back to that later. We also have, as we mentioned earlier, the MethodsNow synthesis, so I can demonstrate that quickly. So if I click on it, this will get me to the ones that we went back and re-indexed. We also do have experimental procedures that we had extracted from the original literature. So this could be from the example section of a patent document or from the text of a journal article. So those are also included. So this provides more of these experimental protocols, as we call them now, and you can get to those full details. Of course, in the reaction itself, there may be multiple steps and stages, and all that is clearly shown here in the detail. Now, depending on what you had previously selected, you may want to come up here where it says View, and you can see you can collapse this if you want to kind of scan through this quicker. And of course, you can expand it. So we have this nice handy arrow to take you back up to the top. You can keep it expanded if you prefer. Now, we talked about schemes. So this first one actually is just two reactions in the same scheme. And again, the definition is these two starting materials going to the desired product. You'll see the reaction summary of the first one, and then the reaction summary of the second one. Now, if there's more than a couple, then it might be an option here to view all. The second scheme's just got a one. Most of the rest of these just have a single instance. Here, this one has a couple. I haven't explored this enough to know if there's even one that's beyond that. So here we have three. So with three, it'll show it. I think beyond three, it stops showing them, and then you can view all. Let's go back up to the top. All right, so here I can look at the experimental protocols. Again, the MethodsNow synthesis. You're going to see it has a nice templated form showing you the participants, excuse me, in the reaction. A nice step-by-step procedure. It's got a lot of steps. You can download this and take it to the laboratory with you if you like. The transformation, describing scale. This one doesn't have it, but many do have characterization data as well. Might see another one of those later. The other option you have here is Patent Pack. Patent Pack is another full text option. You can get to, this is now unlimited in SciFinder-n. It was kind of on a trial basis on the Classic platform. You only can use it a few times. But here you can use it as much as you like. And the advantage of this is it gets to this particular substance in the context of the document with just one click. You can do this from a reaction-based search. You can also do it from a substance-based search or a reference-based search. And it takes you right to the location of a particular substance in the context of the document. So here you see in the experimental procedures section of this particular patent, reaction scheme. You can see that was a starting material here. In other cases, you might see markup in the text of the example section. Obviously, some of these are pretty simple compounds, and you know what those are. Other cases, it might be a little more complex. And you can easily move from one to the other. So it's a nice little option that you have here. You know, always identifying what the substance is here over on the left-hand window. Another nice feature with the viewer is if I want, I can get additional information on any substance. So just click on the registry number, and that gets me to the substance detail. And so we see here now the detail for this compound includes any experimental properties that are available, such as thermal properties. It includes spectra. So if you want to compare it to spectra, you can come in here and grab that. Get some IR spectra. And it shows you bioactivity indicators, if there are any, and also regulatory information. So is it on the TSCA inventory, for example? That might be of interest to you. So here, this one is. And you can also see other inventories, such as the REACH inventory for the European Union, if you like. And of course, I could always go get reactions, references, supplier information on the substance. Meanwhile, my initial search is still up here in a tab. So In fact, SciFinder-n supports multi-searching. You can do simultaneous searching. You can do simultaneous loading of information into a tab. So another nice feature that's available. There's MethodsNow. Since it allows for stereochemistry, you now can actually select that. You know, all of these have stereo. In some cases, you might have some where the stereo bonds weren't indicated, so you might have some flat alternatives. Of course, you can also look at additional participants and filter by particular reagents of interest or particular catalysts or solvents. All that's available to you. I mentioned there is a new feature for commercial availability, so I can filter these down to only those reactions where there's some supplier information available. That would take you back to our supplier tab and list the chemical catalog information. In all cases, the starting materials now are going to have a supplier link, and I can quickly go to that supplier information if I like. Can always load this into a new tab as well. So I keep my reactions here. I can go off and see the supplier information for that particular compound if I like. And then we have some ways to filter down here based on reference information. So if you want to do it by particular application year or language, you can do that as well. It's sort of a quick intro here to reaction searching with the tab. All right, so if you want to start a new search, you can return to the home page. If you go up here with a left click, it takes you to the home page. Yeah. Hi, Laura.
John, just wanted to give folks an opportunity to ask any questions on the reaction searching that you've covered so far. I haven't seen anything in the chat, but I wanted to provide the opportunity if you guys have.
I have a question on the, you're unmuted.
No, it's not.
You're not on mute. No, we can hear you.
Go ahead. They can hear you. That's the video.
Oh, the video, okay. On the commercial availability, is there any kind of a rating, the vendor's reliability?
A rating of the vendors, is that what you asked?
The
The
reliability.
suppliers,
Yes.
we do not rank them. There is actually an option that you can do. You go back. By the way, I'm looking at the history here, so you can look at your previous search history and rerun the search very quickly. I'll go back to that supplier. The only ranking is your ranking. We had this something similar in Classic here. I didn't mention this when I was talking about it, but you can do the thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up just means they show up at the top of the list. Thumbs down puts them to the end of the list. So it's your own ranking. I know that having a ranking system is something I've heard before. We couldn't possibly do that. It'd have to be something you would do, I suppose. So that would be the way you would do it. So you can put your preferred suppliers at the top and non-preferred vote at the bottom, and you can filter by those as well. Yeah.
John, some of the issues we run into, I guess the question would be how often is this information updated? So I know from my perspective, I've reached out to suppliers that say this is typically in stock, and the response will be, we don't carry this item. So the maintained in stock, I've never really found that to be correct unless it's in very small amounts. And then, the response that they no longer carry the item. How often do the suppliers provide SciFinder with information to update your site?
Yeah, well, of course, they can supply it as often as they would like. We update the database on a weekly basis, but that's, of course, based on submissions from the suppliers. We try to be a little more active on a periodic basis to check the accuracy, but with this particular database, the suppliers actually pay for their listings, so it's based on availability. It's to their advantage to keep it up to date. But of course, we can't 100% guarantee every particular substance is listed as appropriate. So we try to encourage them as much as possible to do that. But if you find a particular situation where you would like to send us some feedback on a particular supplier, we'd be happy to receive that and consider whether we need to remove that supplier or not. But we try to keep this accurate as possible. We're sort of at the whims of the suppliers themselves. I don't know if you want to add anything more to that, Lauren.
No, I think that pretty much covers it. We do ask that they update their catalog at least twice a year due to mid-year price changes and stocking changes and supply chain changes. But yeah, as John said, we're sort of at the mercy of their responsiveness. So we do also a concierge service to audit what they say on this form versus what's on their website. So if that information is inconsistent, we notify them that, hey, you said this quantity was available, but we don't see it on your website reflected anymore. Should we update this? So in those cases, we will proactively do it. But I think there's probably over 600 suppliers in there with multiple thousands of products per supplier. So it is a service that it's kind of a work in progress. It's not, we didn't go into the business of doing e-commerce, but feedback's always helpful. If you do come across a supplier where there are inaccuracies, I know it might take a minute, but if you send that to help@cas.org, we will reach out to them and let them know of that inaccuracy. So appreciate that.
Okay.
Any
also,
questions? Go ahead.
I have a question. Like supplies, sometimes like TCI give like 5 or 10. Like even in here, like I remember, like BioSynthesis have 2. So at the beginning, we are very happy. Like when you check the reaction, says like 100 vendors. A lot of them just repeat. Why they put a repeat over there? Like TCI, yes, I understand that TCI Americans, they're TCI Japanese, or TCI European, some stuff. But some like even like some company, like even Key Organic, sometimes they give two like supplies listed as. Why like this way? I just curious.
I think that has to do with the a lot of times it's the purity. So there might be different purity levels. Sometimes it's actually isomers, different isomers, or sometimes it's both.
Yeah, you can check in the BioSynthesis. Yeah, you have 4 and 5.
Yeah, so here's an example with BioSpin. So we can see there's like a smaller milligram quantity listing, and then there's a broader listing here. So really the only difference is in the quantity in these. So yeah, they do sometimes show up like that. Really not a way to filter that down. I mean, because obviously country basis, you can filter it based on the country, which eliminates some of the ones across different countries. But in this case, you could do it maybe just by quantity. So if you just want really small quantities, it's going to show up. And I think that's partly why maybe it sometimes is set up that way. So they want to make sure they're represented. If you go to a smaller quantity or a larger quantity, you're not going to be removed from that list anymore. So in this case, it didn't help, but in other cases, it might. But certainly, we appreciate your feedback on that, and we'll share that with our.
So 2 sometimes is fine. Some companies list like 5 or 6, like supplies. It's like annoying.
Yeah, we appreciate the feedback, and it is common that we get that. So, but I don't want to take away from the other features that we want to demonstrate. So, appreciate the feedback. If you guys want to capture that in an email and send it to me, I will definitely work with the ChemCats product manager. So, we wanted to show some of the other features in SciFinder-n on the reaction searching. If there are questions on the way the reaction is done, what we'll do is wait till the end of the session, then John, to field any other questions, if that's okay.
Okay, sure. Fine.
All right, thanks, guys.
So, we're starting to say here, you can always get back to a new search with the SciFinder icon. So I could just do a left click on that. So I was going to do a structure-based search here. You can start with a structure. Actually, a quick and easy way is if you happen to know one of the names or have a CAS registry number. So I'm going to do this one on a cardioprotective agent called Coraxin. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that in, Coraxin. And I go run the search on that. So I'm starting with the substance tab. So I could always launch a structure-based search from the structure image. So here I am looking at the substance, and I can blow that up with a left click. And here I can edit the structure in here if I like. So I'm going to go ahead and load that into the structure draw editor. So the quickest, easiest way to put that in there. Now, if I happen to have already know the registry number, or I look it up with the name, another option you have is you can paste a registry number here or a SMILES or INCHI key. So if you have one of those, you can do that as well. And by the way, in the detail of the substance detail, now we include the SMILE string. So if you're looking for a source for a SMILE string, you can now pull it out of the SciFinder detail if you like. So this one I could just load it. I'll just show this. It's the same structure. And you can see it's there, and it just adds that. So a couple of different ways of putting that particular structure into your structure editor. We've also added an option for a tablet or a touch screen. So if you have like a tablet or a phone or something you want to do a structure search on, you can use the Chem Doodle option, which works a little better there. Otherwise, I'd stick with CAS Draw. You also have the capabilities to, of course, refine this search. It's very similar to what you had in the classic platform. You have the periodic table. You have some predefined shortcuts, some variables where you can control substitution, like maybe here the only thing I want is alkyl groups as an attachment. I can put that on there if I like. I could also undo anything if I change my mind. And I could build an R group here out of the variables, shortcuts, or atoms of interest. I could also lock down rings if I don't want additional fusion with the ring lock tool. I'm probably familiar with that from classic. And also I can lock down an atom if I want to prevent substitution at a given position. Okay? I also can run a reaction from here. So the reaction tools are just visible here. I can always grab one and place it there. So I make that the product. There also is a reaction roll tool here. So what I can do is kind of hover over the structure. It gives me some options. So of course it's a product, but if I want it to be a reagent or reactant or any role, I could assign that to my reaction here as well. Okay? I'm just going to keep it product for right now. So I'll go ahead and run a search here. Now, when I build a structure search, it loads it. It kind of puts it into like a holding position because you have a number of different options for the structure search now. I could run a regular structure search, which would run it in our registry database, and we'd find structures that match it as drawn or substructures, and just running a structure-based search. If I check the box here, it would run a Marcouche structure search, so looking for it as a generic structure in patent documents. I can also use this menu up here to look for it as a reaction or find references for this compound. So in fact, I could run a combined reference and structure search if I want in SciFinder-n. Of course, we're talking about reactions today, so I'm going to run a reaction-based search. So it's going to search our CasReact reaction database and find some known reactions for this particular compound. The nice thing about structure searching, it also highlights the structures. You can see here that this one is as drawn. Everything's exactly there. And of course, I have the tabs up here. So most of these are as drawn, no additional substitution. I could also get the substructure ones if I want, include those as well. Of course, it includes all the as drawn ones and then a few more in this particular search. Of course, I could focus this more if I like. So here's actually one where I do have 7 reactions in the scheme. So I was looking for one earlier. So you could see there's a couple reaction summaries here. And then if you want, you can view all the reaction summaries. So this is essentially the only thing that's different in the scheme. So the starting materials are the same. So the additional components, whether we're talking about reagents, solvents, catalysts, will vary. So you can kind of see that here with just the first couple where there's some different participants in the reaction. It could also be different references as well. So you can group these by scheme, which is what we're looking at here. You also have the option to group them by document. So if you're starting to see a lot of different schemes from the same document, you can also focus those down by document, so similar to what you had in classic platform. Now, as I was scrolling through here, maybe I come across something I'm really interested in, maybe a particular starting material, particular participant of interest. So just for the sake of discussion, I look at this particular one, and I see there's a couple suppliers available, and we're talking about suppliers. I'm not going to go there, but there are a couple, and they're not really good for my interest. So I'm going to actually pursue this a little bit more. So So one of the things I can do is I could filter this down based on this participant. So I can add that to my structure search. So the way I would do this is I would find its registry number. So I can click on it, grab the registry number up here. I'm just going to highlight it, and I'm just going to do a Control-C to copy it, close that down. We have this nice option to search within the results. And so now I can start with the current structure or not. In this case, I'm going to not, because I'm going to add this new structure. So the technique I just discussed before, I'm going to go ahead and Control-V to paste the registry number in there. There's my substance of interest. I could refine it or filter it or lock it down just to play it safe. So I'll just make sure it's just that particular range. I'm going to go ahead and OK this now, which loads it. And I can now basically do sort of a subset search on my existing reaction search, where in all cases it's going to have this as one of the participants. Now, I didn't actually label it as a role, but I could have labeled it as a reactant as well. Go ahead and run that search. This is showing you there's a way you could focus it. So if you find something of interest, now in all cases, there's going to be this particular structure. It could be substituted. I don't know if there's any example for that, but it's only going to be that particular structure that's going to show up in those. Okay? So it's a way you could refine. So I want to make sure we get into retrosynthesis, so I'll do a quick example. So I'm going to go here and get to reaction searching. Again, I can start a particular substance name. Actually, we are going to show just a quick demo of MethodsNow. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a substance here. I'll go ahead and do astrobal again. And we actually just go find references on an astrobal. And the way it is designed in SciFinder-n is you can get to what we call CAS solution that will include those documents, the original journal articles that have an emphasis on analytical chemistry. And so you can filter down to these, and then you can get a little bit of information within SciFinder-n. Here it's going to show me what is the analysis. So analysis of the compound of interest, in this case in the rat, by solid phase extraction. If I wanted to get some additional information and I had access to the MethodsNow platform, I would just click on this link. And it takes me into the full detail of that particular record. So what is the analyte, what is the matrix, additional material, full source information, conditions, and step-by-step analytical technique here, and includes some validation information. So a quick, easy way to get into MethodsNow. It's also a standalone search platform, so if I wanted to, I could have run a very similar search here, starting with that analyte, whether I type it in based on the name. I can include it there. See, there's also auto-suggest, so if I wanted the hydrochloride, I can do that instead. I could add some additional requirements here as well. We'll just run that search, see what's available. Of course, in all cases, we're going to see that the compound of interest, but other things may also have been analyzed. Here I see the matrix is pharmaceutical tablets, so I could refine based on that if I was interested in that particular method. Got this nice side-by-side comparison, so I can add this example here, continue down, add a couple more, and then view them side by side.
Is it just me, or I'm not able to follow?
I think
to be doing something.
there's a delay. There appears to be a delay on what we're seeing and what John's doing.
Okay, sorry about that. So I should be, hopefully, you're seeing the compare now. So you see the side-by-side compare.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, we have some other filters here on the left side. They include the method. In this case, I'm looking at active pharmaceutical ingredients and the technique. So you can filter down to a particular technique, method of interest, or discover a particular technique that might be useful for your analytical information. again, just a very brief introduction to MethodsNow. Just a taste of that for you. All right, so back to reactions and retrosynthesis. So I'm going to run just a reaction on that particular compound again. So the history is very convenient. Down here you can see the history for any of the things I've run for today. And in fact, I can see the complete history, which allows you to go back and select the types of searches you've run or a particular date range or a particular date. You can always come back to those as well. So I could load the particular substance name again, and I could even switch it to a different type of search and run that structure, in this case, reaction search. We're getting that particular reaction. I'm interested in this particular compound. Suppose I was interested in something that's a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the structure. And I'll put a couple chlorines on it. Stick one over here and over here. Then, okay, I'm interested in finding this particular substance as a product. I'm going to run this as a structure search. Okay? As a reaction search. And I get this kind of message. So it's saying, doesn't find any reactions. Well, so it's an unknown compound as far as synthesis is. What are my options here? Well, we're going to run a retrosynthesis plant. We'll do that. Now, this will take a little bit of time to run this particular plant. There are no experimental options, but it's going to run a predicted one in the background. Okay, so we'll let it do that. We'll come back and take a look at it in a couple minutes. Otherwise, let me run one with the original structure. Sorry. This one. And we can compare this. So I'm going to run a retrosynthesis plan on this known compound now. And this will have known reactions. We just saw some of them. And so in a minute or so, it'll come up with an experimental retrosynthesis plan, which is what we're viewing here. Got a lot of steps on this one end here and final step at the end here. You could blow this up and make it larger or smaller. And every time you see an Erlenmeyer flask, there's a possibility of some alternatives. So actually, just look at the last step here. These would all be known reactions, so you can view the full details, just like we've been looking at previously. So that would be evidence. Those would be known reactions you can get to. They could be stereochemical or not. In this case, there's no stereo bonds, so there are no stereochemistry steps. The criteria for determining the best plan is based partially on yield, but for other things as well. And in fact, you can control what's available. Meanwhile, while I was doing that, my predicted steps completed. So this one that they complete fairly quickly. On the novel ones, it takes a little bit of time. So that the one I was running that I set up earlier for this compound with the 2 chlorines on it, it took maybe like 15, 20 minutes to run it. It took a while to do that. It actually went into rare rules, as we call it, to get to complete. This one, you can see there's a predicted option here to turn on the predicted steps. So what do the predicted steps do? In some cases, you're going to get some additional information. So this one actually, there's none there. Actually, kind of surprising. In most cases, I'll get some with predicted steps. There we go. Finally. So yeah, we get a couple predicted steps here towards the tail end of that. And the biggest difference, if you select one with the predicted steps, do that again. Actually selected this time. It'll show up a little differently in the theme here. So you can see, you can clearly tell the predicted step now because it's dotted. whereas this is a solid line. So that's an experimental one. You get into differences. These are known reactions. This would be a predicted reaction based on some common rules.
The
You can
screen's
also
not
adjust-
caught up, John.
Okay,
We
sorry.
can't see what you're seeing.
Let me know when you can see it. So yeah, we're here at the tail end of this reaction scheme. I'm pointing to this portion that's predicted. So this just a representation where it's a dotted line on that last step there, the starting step, and compared to a solid line for the other step. You know, I only guess it's with the video. We don't. Most times I don't have video, so sometimes the video slows things down because of bandwidth issues. So I might also be slowing down the response here.
Yeah, I checked with our IT department. They believe that the delay is on your guys' side, that we've never had a problem on our side.
Yeah. So we also, there's a scoring capability in the retrosynthesis plan as well. Are you seeing this yet?
No.
No? What are we seeing, Lauren? Or someone? We're seeing the retrosynthesis.
The screen that I see is just frozen. So it's alternative steps, and it's just frozen.
Oh, there
Okay,
we go.
now it's starting to
Now
move.
there's a.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm on this first step here, H to E. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, so you can see the dotted line there. That's the predicted representation, whereas the solid line here between I and F is the known, or referred to as experimental option. What I was pointing to also here on the left is you can control this process. So the criteria, which we refer to as the scoring profiles here, you can select these and you can decide what you think is most important in providing these predicted options. And so here you can reduce the complexity of the step precursor. So simpler molecules versus more complex molecules. Convergence is increasing or decreasing the number of steps in the plan. Evidence is how many known reactions are available. Yield, of course, self-explanatory, higher or lower yields. And atom efficiency describes conservation of atoms, essentially atoms from the starting material, more of those be more efficient if they go into the product. So you can adjust these, and at any point you want to adjust one of these, it immediately, very quickly alters that retrosynthesis plan for you. You can see it just, we generated it just a minute or two now. I can't tell you exactly what's different, but there's maybe some change. In fact, there's maybe a third pathway here. I didn't know.
Question about this retrosynthesis. It's really done or just suspected this method will work? Like check a later stage, E, F, G stuff. So you are going to react F with G, you can get D. What do you mean? Is that what's a retrosynthesis mean?
Yeah. So
here
for the experimental ones, and we're looking at experimental ones in this set predominantly. These are going to be reactions that are in our database. So what it does is it takes a look at, here's your desired product for this particular step. And it looks at what's available as ways to get there. And so it identifies a number of different ways of getting there.
So you are not saying F and G react can get D?
Well, I mean, it's
retrosynthesis. When we do reaction retrosynthesis, we are supposed F and G react, you can get D. Is there any report about that, or just retrosynthesis? They draw it like this way. There's no. You are not sure.
I'm not I've had a little trouble hearing this. I'm not sure what your question
Because
is
it's
exactly.
retro synthesis usually the later stage because you're from complicated to simple one. Simple one can react to complicated. Like B and C, you can get an A. That's how I understandable. Yeah, the reaction.
That's what we need. They
No,
are
I think-
alternative methods. B is one method, C is a different method.
Yeah, I don't think F plus G. I think either you can go from G to D or F to D.
So you can get a compound A either through B or through C.
Right.
Not B and C together. They are separate route.
Different pathways. Yeah.
Different pathways.
B and C, they are reactant. They are starting material. You can see. What's
Is that
yeah.
what
B and C reacts, you can get an A. That's retro synthesis.
It doesn't say plus.
No, you have to put B and B is a triazole. B is a bromide. C is a triazole. You react to get an A.
B and C, but the F and G are
D,
not
like a B to D, just do bromination, NBS bromination. That's obvious. That's a retrosynthesis. Then from D, how you get a D? That's a retrosynthesis. How can you get a B? That means you are going to from F and G get a B. But is that reported or just you draw it like by your planner, like a random assign this chemistry?
Yeah, these are all known reactions. So so the final step, that's the retrosynthetic step, as you point out. But these are just steps to get to this particular material. So essentially it's saying, well, how do I get to this compound? So it takes it back a few steps. And you can control the number of steps as well by the scoring. It's one of the scoring criteria. So it's taking you back 3 to 4 steps. So if you don't have a supplier or you choose not to purchase it from a supplier, you have a synthetic method of getting to this material or to this material. And it might just be simple transformations, like you were saying, the bromination here. But it's,
just drawing based on known
Basically,
transformations.
these are all based on known reactions. So in all cases, you should see evidence, and this would be
that's fine.
24 reactions.
I think there's a differentiation.
Yes.
That's MBS bromination. That's fine. This step is fine. But can you go back a little bit? Yeah, go back. Go back the plan.
The major one.
Can you check how D was prepared from F and O G? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's showing the 3 materials going together here is essentially the same.
I'm just checking what's the reaction. I mean, there's a reported reaction or?
Yeah, there's 3 known reactions. I'm not sure why it's showing it twice. It's the phosphate or the free acid, maybe.
Okay, decarboxylation and got copper again to the coupling. And
Just
also,
showing
Assuming what's going on,
yeah.
if A plus B gives you the C as a product,
Yeah.
this retrosynthesis things, A going to C one method, B going to C as another method. It doesn't appreciate A and B together gives C. That's why you are getting confused there. That's what is going on here.
That's why it's all repeated, yeah.
The system just says A goes to C, there's a one method, B goes to C, but it doesn't realize A and B together is needed to go to C. That's why you see sometimes it repeats.
Duplicate.
Yeah, because we had that hierarchy, but not the system. Yeah.
That's what.
You can even see this particular patent document is talking about creating an intermediate for preparing my final product here. So it's kind of describing that particular step as is shown in the scheme. So it's creating that intermediate before it goes into the final step here.
So if you're looking at route B, you consider C as a reagent.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at C, it considers B as a reagent. That's why it is differentiating the route.
The triazole is present in B route as well.
It doesn't recognize
Because we
B
don't
and
see it
C
here.
are starting material. It just goes to one starting material only for the retrosynthesis. I think everything is the same. That's the confusion here.
It was different display, literally.
Yeah, I mean, this is all the software, the program is written. I mean, you go through it, they all look the same. That will explain this whole scheme, how it is written.
Well, I'm not sure Yuming's clear yet.
Yeah, I will talk to him.
This scheme to me is pretty clear. I just wondering what the reactions like.
We need the software.
I mean, this retrosynthesis to me is very clear.
You click B and C and you will see the same components, just like the measure is on the display, but the hidden other reagent is there as well, yeah? It's not like it's really different.
So B and C together gives you the A. It doesn't consider as a one route.
Yeah.
B giving A is one route. C giving you A is one route.
Hey,
It just
Lauren.
happens, C goes to A, you need B as a reagent.
Lauren, are you still on?
I'm still on. Yep.
Is there, did you guys offer to Italy, them to give them like a little trial period to kind of mess around with the SciFinder-n? Or is it something you could do for us so they could be more familiar with this here?
I can ask of whether they plan to do that. We're actually scheduled to talk to them, I think, first week in October. So I can note that as a request that you guys would like to see to get some trial access to it.
So the other
so they
question I have is, we have to go to SciFinder-n, the older version is going to disappear soon.
There's no sunset plan for the classic version. So you will have access to both at first to allow for transitioning to the new platform and moving over any saved searches or alerts that you have set in the classic platform. But we will eventually transition completely to the new SciFinder-n platform, as that's where all of our developmental efforts and support are being focused currently. But yeah, I think what John is trying to demonstrate here is that the retrosynthetic planner is built on an artificial intelligence machine learning algorithm that takes the body of research work that's been published in the literature that looks at the transformations, so the reactant in the product, looks at the bond break, bond formation, and provides a statistical result to say this is what's most likely, this is what's been proven in the literature more times. And then as you highlight on each one of those retrosynthetic steps, you can dig into the experimental basis for that transformational step, why it's recommending that. You can see if those conditions are relevant to what you're trying to do. So if they're using a non-aqueous solvent, or if they're having to put something under pressure, those are the kind of things, those are the kind of conditions that you can dig into more to see, how did this transformation actually happen? And is this relevant to what I'm trying to do? Can I do this in a simple step, or is this going to take a purification step? Is this going to take a precipitation step? That kind of thing. So there are those details. The synthetic scheme basically just shows you those isolated intermediates that the literature, that the empirical literature that we index discusses. And so when you see the purple steps, so John's showing you the green steps right now, these are solely predictive. So this is where that machine learning takes on some experimentation of its own and says, based on what we know in the literature, based on the similar bond break, bond formation, empirical nodes or pieces of information, we project that this synthesis is feasible. And we project it might be feasible to this extent. So these are, when you get a predicted route, it's going to be dotted line green. These are predictions or calculations that our software is providing. But I forget who was saying this, but yeah, retrosynthetically, yeah, that's exactly the way that the scheme is trying to present it, is that those two pieces merge together to form that next step. That next step can be carried to the subsequent next step, and it's moving right to left. So yeah, in a retrosynthetic form, right?
Yeah, so these are starting steps to go to C. D is just, you can easily purchase that, and then they're forming this intermediate before the final step here. This was the one that I had done earlier, where I put a couple of chlorines on this one just to make it novel. and ran it as a retrosynthesis plan. So in this case, every step is a predicted step. So we just have common rules to predict how to get there. So it's going in reverse. It's predicting each step until we get, of course, back to the product that was desired. So that's the predicted retrosynthesis for this.
Yeah, I know we're coming up on our time allotment for you guys. So I wanted to do a quick check for the audience. For you guys,
We're not planning to do anything with our
are you guys? Is anybody needing to leave right now? I just want to be sensitive to people's time.
so I just want to try to be quick.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that, do you guys need to wrap up, or is there?
I think the benefit they're going to get out of this, Lauren, is to kind of get in there and mess around with it.
Okay.
Obviously, this is probably most important to go Paul's group. I did run down and grab somebody from the analytical method development group and had him sit in for your short little overview of that portion.
Okay.
I would also like to go back to that group if we get this trial period going, to allow them to take a look at it. I think there's some benefits in there that they're not even aware of.
Yeah, that might make sense to give, if we set up a SciFinder-n trial, to also extend that to the MethodsNow analysis portion.
Correct.
Do you know if is there any need at your site for formulations, or are you guys doing, finished goods or formulating products for your customers?
No.
We don't do formulation. Our analytical may do some analysis of formulated products.
Okay.
Often they do it.
It's rare.
Yeah.
And also, you can see here, you have an overall price. If our client says, get this compound, I just give you this budget, we will be in trouble. You can estimate the yield 31%, overall price is 9,700. If our client says, okay, I'll give you 9,700, they will be in trouble.
Using that price.
Yeah, well, you know at least what route to avoid. That one's too expensive.
I will answer that question. Before this one, you had no information, you assumed something. So you're going to have some information something based on that. It's better than what you have now. If you start with zero and make an assumption, now you have some assumption, you had your assumption.
If our product, I'm fine. If the client says this price that's our work, then we'll be in trouble. I'm right.
Yeah, good. Now listen to Gopal, though. At least you have some basis to avoid certain routes. Well, yeah, I think it makes sense to extend to provide a trial access. I will communicate with my colleague in Italy to see if that's possible prior to renewal, and extend that to the analytical portion as well. Okay. So I know we're over time, so I want to make sure I'm sensitive to everybody's time. John, thanks for putting this presentation together. For the folks at Olan there, thanks for your participation and feedback. Always appreciated. I think for next steps, what I'll do is I'll communicate with my colleague Louisa, let her know that you guys attended today, capture the feedback that I did, and recommend that there be at least a trial period to get a feel for how this would work in your day-to-day.
Yeah,
that sounds okay?
Yeah, because that's going to be the best way for these guys to really get a feel for it.
Yep, I agree. Well, thanks everybody for your time. Are there any other questions that we can quickly address on the product accessibility or anything in that nature?
No, everybody looks pretty happy.
Maybe just one quick question.
Oh, one question.
Yeah, like all those nice features like Patent Pack or MethodsNow, they have to be like bought separately, or it like comes together? What difference in price does it make?
Yeah, so SciFinder-n includes all of that. It's one tool now.
All out. There's no option there to pick and choose.
Okay, because so far we had some. Okay, thanks.
Right. Yeah, the only difference is the analytical module is an optional add. If it's not of benefit, if that specific content isn't going to be beneficial, we can leave that part out.
Is Italy looking at the analytical side?
Yeah, they're the ones that recommended that we explore that need with you guys further as well.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
So I guess then they will pay for it.
That's the that's the negotiating you guys have to do, is make sure that they pick up the tab this time.
Right. All right. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, John.
Thank
We
you guys.
appreciate
You
your
guys have a
help.
great day. Good luck in your research and your business. We will be talking to you soon.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.